Hey guys, Femalien here again for another post. This time I thought I would touch on something that is a little uncomfortable for me to talk about, but I think it's important. I don't want to just keep touching on the topics that are fun and interesting for me to talk about. This time I thought I would touch a little bit on the OCD that I experience, and it is related to my special interests. My special interests, as I've said in a previous video around obsessions, can vary in severity. The most recent one that I've had since my last post has just been a whirlwind. We were watching Rage one night, and Rage is a video program in Australia where they just play music, and it can be really, really brilliant. And they were playing this 80s playlist from a show called Countdown, which was kind of like Top of the Pops in Australia in the 80s. And a certain film clip played by Tears for Fears, and I was just like immediately hooked. And I just like had to go off and just like find that video and watch everything about it, and it's gotten me into... I went from... I mean, that song was from their most popular album, which I now have, but I went back to their first album, and I realized that before they were Tears for Fears, they were actually called Graduate, and Graduate are a part of the mod culture revival of the early 80s. So I've since become crazy obsessed with anything early mod culture. Mod revival from the early 80s. So yeah, it spun my brain out. Like, that's how spontaneous it can be. I'm not really being, conscious of the process. I don't even feel interested, and then all of a sudden I'm just so interested that it can be a bit creepy. So the reason why the topic of OCD comes in with this is that my special interests sometimes are so intense that they become a negative thing. And I was waking up in the morning with like certain songs in my head that they wouldn't get out of my head, singing them all day, having to sing them like at work. And this is all over now. It's like a big wave. It's like a tsunami. It's incredible how it happens. And most of the time, like 90% of the time, I can have special interests and it's fine. But it is interesting that my sister, who was my boss at work, bought a house away from where I live and had to leave work. And I feel like, well, I know that when she told me this, I just laid down on the couch for a bit and I said to my partner, I just don't feel very well. And it's typical for me to not be emotional about things. I just don't feel good. And then I just popped up and I was like, oh, I'm fine. Yep, we'll get through this. I mean, that's life. Things change. And then, yeah, literally that day, it was like whack with this huge obsession about early 80s mod culture. So, yeah, it's like what I was saying in a previous post. Shush, Facebook. When I was going through high school and it was really, really bad, I developed a huge obsession with a guitarist. So it is most of the time music-based. I do love music. Music makes my life amazing. So it's only natural for me to gravitate towards that area when it comes to interests. But yeah, so far I've just gotten right into... It spread from me understanding that it was the mod revival, which is post-punk, and then I've gotten into a little bit of like new wave after that. So I'm really getting into these subgenres, and I guess when my brain... I don't mean to keep calling it my brain, like what I mean is my condition. When I feel like emotionally sometimes I can't express myself, and my brain won't let me feel the emotion that is typical for the situation. So instead of doing that, it does something else and gives me these obsessions. That's the only way I can describe it, because it's just so all of a sudden and so intense that it's got to be some sort of therapy for myself that I'm creating for myself. Like, it's just really weird. but you know, the problem existed around Tears for Fears, and after that I've kind of gotten into the jam and things like that, and I'm really, really enjoying that. So that's why I consider it an OCD, and they call it Puro when it's thought-based. And I had this horrific Puro experience with Tears for Fears, and I feel really funny saying that. Like, they're a band from my childhood, and they're brilliant. Like, they really are great. I just developed this weird obsession with them. So I'm glad I moved on to the jam, but I may have done that like forcing myself to just try and feel better. But yeah, that's the reality of this. I am embarrassed to talk about it, but that's why I've got this channel, so maybe other people out there that experience the same things don't feel so lonely, and understand that there's other people that are going through, you know, problems with their traits as well as having the good traits, you get the bad. So yeah, I won't go on too much longer. Thanks for tuning in, and new subscribers are always great. I've had a few more, so thank you, and thanks for all the views and communication that everyone's had with me. And I want to send a shout out to Kyle R. I'll put your link below this video. We've been talking, it's been really good explaining his special interests and stuff to me, and he does some great stuff, so please visit his channel. Femalien signing off, see you later.